This episode is brought to you by TaxAct. Don't do your taxes alone. Join TaxAct's National Admin Night. Admin nights are social gatherings for getting through your to-do list. So get ready for a night of fun, finding deductions, and filing taxes with TaxAct, where you can file your federal and state return for just $49 through April 8. Let's get together and get them over with. Visit taxact.com/admin-night for details.
Instagram teen accounts have automatic protections for what teens see and who can contact them, plus time management tools. And Instagram will continue adding built-in safety features to help create age-appropriate experiences. Learn more about teen accounts and Instagram's ongoing work to protect teens online at instagram.com/teen accounts.
Hello and welcome to The Shift, the podcast that aims to tell the no-holds-barred truth about being a woman post-40. Created and hosted by me, journalist and author Sam Baker. Now, I first came across today's guest, Dr. Emily Nagoski, on this very podcast, when my then guest, Sarah Knight, who's creator of the No Fucks Given franchise, raved about the transformational power of her runaway bestseller, Come As You Are. I hunted it down, and like millions of women the world over, I was blown away. A sex expert who spoke our language? Who took the pressure off rather than piling it on? No way. So when I heard that the Kinsey-educated sex educator had turned her attention to long-term relationships in a new book, Come Together, I was obsessed. Not least because it turns out that sex experts are human too. And Emily had experienced her own fallow period. But instead of wallowing in it, or panicking, or buying uncomfortable knickers, Emily used her own story of sexual disconnection and reconnection as an opportunity to look at what makes and breaks sexual connections. And guess what? It's not what you think.
Your culture of origin began to plant ideas about bodies and sexuality, about gender and love and safety and connection. And while you're young, they cultivate the garden for you. And as you get older, they teach you to cultivate the garden. So by the time you get to young adulthood, there it is.
Emily joined me from her home in New England to discuss coming out as a sex expert who'd lost her sex drive, taking the shoulds out of your sex life, why passion is overrated, how to get the weeds out of your sexual garden, being told she no longer had a young vagina, thanks, and why she only has one inarguable piece of advice: lube is good. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for spending your valuable spoons on The Shift.
I'm so glad you just used the word spoons.
Well, I have my own spoon shortage, so I really understand what you've been going through.
Yeah.
I mean, has it been difficult to say, well, I've only got this many spoons, and some of those spoons have to go on myself and my marriage?
Yes, that actually has been the defining feature of, I would say, the last 6 months of my life as I've been preparing for the book to be published and then going through the book launch process. The whole point of the book is like sex in long-term relationships. I wrote the book because I struggled with sex in my own marriage, and I made a really explicit choice that I was not going to invest all of the energy that I had into the book because I was determined to stay a wife and a partner to my husband, who is a he's my favorite person on earth. He's a delightful human being who deserves to have a wife who is not a puddle, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that there's opportunity cost with that, it's a trade-off that I struggle with because I have all this capitalism stuff in my brain too about success and but don't you want there to be a movie or TV adaptation of your book? I do. And also I want to have a life I enjoy with my husband. So there's probably never going to be one.
Yeah. Yeah. It was one of the things I was thinking when I read Come As You Are, and again, when I was reading Come Together, that so much of it boils down to that, doesn't it? So much boils down to those kind of like capitalist goals of attainment and go, go, go and acquire and output and achieve and all of that. And that's in all our lives. And it's really, really present in our sex lives.
Yeah, the narratives we have in our head about what a great sex life is supposed to look like, heavy quotes around that, all have to do with performance, with having the right kind of body and the right frequency of sex and the right sexual behaviors and orgasm from the right kind of stimulation and the right experience of orgasm, like how they're supposed to feel. And it's all judging ourselves against this entirely fictional standard. This totally made up, invented, often deliberately manipulative and cruel standard, rather than noticing what's actually true about our sex lives and deciding that who we truly are as sexual people is someone worth being, that we already deserve all of the pleasure that our bodies are capable of. Joni Blank, the founder of Good Vibrations, she is the reason why the catchphrase for Good Vibrations, the feminist sex toy store, is pleasure is your birthright.
But that's a big thing to take on board, isn't it? Because we're not taught that.
Yeah. In fact, we're taught the opposite, that you have to earn it. You need to deserve it. Like, what are you going to do? I had this very silly idea earlier this week. I'm going to write a very short book called You Only Get One Monkey. I used to do this exercise when I worked on a college campus. I would do like a wellness orientation. Welcome to the college campus. Let's spend a weekend talking about how you're going to take care of yourself while you're here at school. And I would hand out sheets and they would color a line illustration of a monkey, right? And while they're coloring, very relaxing activity, I would ask them questions about how they're going to take care of their monkey. Like, what are they going to feed their monkey? And how much are they going to let their monkey out to play? And how much rest are they going to let their monkey have? And how much work are they going to have their monkey do? And are they ever going to have play or sleep be contingent on doing enough work? And gradually they catch on that this is a metaphor, that I am talking about how they care for their own bodies, because we are ultimately mammals. We are living in these monkey suits, and you only get one. Your body is the only thing you have with you on the day you're born that you still have with you on the day you die. And your relationship with it is a major factor in the quality of your life. And you don't always get control over the state of your body, as we have been experiencing. Students will even raise their hands and say things like, but the monkey deserves rest.
Oh, man.
Never mind play and pleasure. They feel guilty for sleeping.
It's no wonder we get to our 40s and 50s and 60s.
And we're fucking exhausted.
Yeah. And we can't even begin to unpick all this stuff because it's, it's decades ingrained.
Yeah. And it's a moral judgment. It's like whether or not you're a good person can be measured by how hard you work and how much you change the world and how much you achieve, and experiences that your children have, if you have children, and the happiness of your family members, because of course the happiness of your family members depends entirely on you and your contributions. And it's your job. It is your moral obligation to sacrifice time, your attention, your energy, your physical well-being, sometimes your life. Sacrifice yourself on the altar of other people's comfort, convenience, and happiness. And if you don't do that, you deserve to get the crap beat out of you. And if there's no one around to beat the crap out of you, you'll just go ahead and beat the crap out of yourself.
Do it yourself, yeah. It's the classic kind of good girl stroke person, fixer, hyper alertness thing that is ingrained in us so young, isn't it? Was it ingrained in little Emily?
Oh, yeah, of course. I was raised as the day I was born, people looked at my body and they went, it's a girl. And I got the same user's manual that everybody who's assigned It's a Girl gets, which is you are a giver. It is your job on earth to be pretty, happy, yet calm, attentive to the needs of others. And it got reinforced over and over again. I got shamed out of my regional accent, as I know happens to a lot of people in Britain. I got shamed out of, I was once told that I was really ugly when I made an angry face.
Oh, yeah, the wind will change and you'll get stuck like that. It's something they say in the UK. Yeah.
Yeah. As if there's something wrong with being stuck in an angry face when there is so much in life to be angry about, right?
So much.
But how dare we impose something as inconvenient as our uncomfortable feelings on other people?
At what point did you get comfortable airing those feelings and inflicting them on other people?
So I have an identical twin. Even though we're identical twins, we have this really big difference in our relationship with our body and emotions. My internal experience, my interoception is extremely vivid. So I actually don't have a lot of choice about when and how I express those emotions. My journey has been of learning to, like, the mantra from my adult caregivers was put a lid on it, cork it, Emily. Like, keep it down, because like it's all so big inside me that it all comes out. And my sister has she really struggles to hear her own internal experience, to recognize her physiological needs and her emotions, because they all happen in the body. And so her process has been the opposite of learning how to access those experiences and let them out. Her health has suffered as a consequence of her inability to let those things out. And like, my health is not great these days either, but for most of our lives, Emily was the healthy one. That was the narrative, is that like Emily was fine, Emily was healthy, but Emily was obnoxious.
Great.
And Amelia was a good girl and she behaved herself, and she was hospitalized twice during her doctoral work.
Wow.
And she also has long COVID. She got it in July of 2020 and now uses a wheelchair to get around the world.
I don't know that much research has been done on it, and it definitely should be, because I really see long COVID affecting women in their 40s and 50s much disproportionately. I can't help wondering what else is going on there, partly with hormones, but also with decades of pent-up stress. Yeah. So you, income as you are, you talked a lot about the garden, which I absolutely love that analogy. Would you mind explaining that for us?
Sure. I love it too. I love it so much. I put it in both books. So the idea is, here's how to think about what's true about your sexuality. On the day you're born, you are given a little plot of rich and fertile soil that will become the garden of your sexuality. And on that day, your family of origin and your culture of origin began to plant ideas about bodies and sexuality, about gender and love and safety and connection. And while you're young, they cultivate the garden for you. And as you get older, they teach you to cultivate the garden. So by the time you get to young adulthood, there it is, the garden that is your sexuality. And some people get really lucky. It's beautiful and lush, and all they have to do is cultivate and harvest.
Do you know any of them?
I have met approximately 2. And they are not free of garbage stuff in their gardens, because the culture in which all of us are raised is just jam-packed with garbage, in particular for women, because our messages are inherently contradictory. Like, you got planted in your garden the idea that you should be pure and your body is for the pleasure of other people and you don't have any sexual thoughts of your own, but also you're supposed to be a sexual rock star and be able to orgasm 6 ways from Sunday. So no matter what you're doing, you are always doing it wrong. I know some people who had amazing sex-positive parents who ended up being remarkably healthy sexual adults, even really early on in their sexual lives. But then there's the rest of us who are stuck with some pretty toxic crap in our garden. And we have the growth opportunity to go row by row through that garden and make some choices about what we want to keep and what we want to throw on the compost heap to rot. and become fertilizer for the things that we choose to plant in our gardens. In Come Together, which is about sex and long-term relationships, early on in a sexual relationship, it's often about like going to visit each other's gardens. So like you come find out what's going on in my garden. I invite you over. I hope you like the place. You go visit the other person's garden, see if you like what's going on there. But at a certain point, you begin cultivating a shared garden. You bring over your favorite stuff from your garden and they bring over their favorite stuff. And you really hope that they don't strangle each other, those plants. And it's an opportunity for us to create change in our own lives and in our sexual connections.
What kind of garden did you get landed with?
Oh, very bog standard middle-class American white girl.
Yeah.
Which could be, again, like I have an identical twin. And we ended up, by the time we got to 18, with sort of like, I had one of the scripts and Amelia got the other script. I got the you're supposed to be a sexual rock star, Glamour magazine, Cosmo, like 50 ways to rock his cock. Like I remember reading articles that said men really like it when women enjoy sex. So make sure you do things that show that you like what's happening.
So don't enjoy it. Perform enjoying it.
Perform pleasure. Like men like it when women touch their own breasts. Make noise. Not about actually experiencing pleasure, but about performing pleasure for someone else. Yeah, that's the script that I got. And Amelia got the one that was like, don't have any sexual thoughts or feelings of your own. Don't have any sexual sensations. Your body is for someone else's pleasure. Raised in the same household, genetically identical, but with very slight differences, sort of like the soil that fostered different plants resulted in these really different gardens. And both of us have had to go on the journey of like choosing what we wanted to keep and what we wanted to add that didn't take root initially.
So how did you come to make a career in sex education?
It started in my first year in undergraduate. I was a big nerd. I was a SWAT, I think is the equivalent British word.
Yeah.
So I knew I was going to go to grad school. I had no idea for what, but I was like, I'm definitely going to grad school. So I wanted some volunteer work on my resume to make me look like a good candidate for grad school in my first year.
You were a SWAT, yeah.
Very. And I had already completed a year's worth of coursework by the time I got to my first year actually in college.
Wow.
Yeah. So I asked a guy on my floor, like what I could do. And he said, hey, come, he was pre-med. So he said, be a peer health educator with me. So I did. I got trained to go into residence halls to talk about condoms, contraception, and consent. Meanwhile, I was earning a degree in psychology with minors in cognitive science and philosophy. And so I loved the brain stuff. I loved it. But even as much as I really enjoyed the brain stuff, and I still use the brain stuff, the work I was doing as a sex educator and then as a sexual violence prevention educator and then as a sexual assault crisis responder, that work made me like who I am as a person in a way the intellectual stuff just never could. So that's the path I chose. I got a job at Smith College as the director of wellness education and taught a class called Women's Sexuality. But because it was such an intense semester, the last question on the final exam was, tell me one important thing you learned. Out of all these ideas that we've talked about, 187 students, more than half of them wrote something like, I learned I'm normal. I'm normal. I'm not broken. There's nothing wrong with me just because I'm different from other women. And I don't know if you've spent a lot of time grading final exams. It's not usually like this. I was sitting in my office grading with tears in my eyes. And I wanted to do it at a bigger scale. And that is the day I decided to write Come As You Are.
And you did do it on an enormous scale. Enormous scale. Were you surprised that it took off the way it did?
It didn't happen fast. Like it was a very gradual growth. So this is not usually what happens with books. I was told that what's going to happen is there's going to be an initial burst, and in about 3 months, that's basically it. But month after month, it just kept growing because people would read it and they would want their friends or their partners to read it. Therapists were giving it to their clients to read. And then their clients would pass it on to their partners and their friends and their family. One of my favorite stories was a gay man told me that it's a book about women's sexuality, but it turns out it's pretty applicable to kind of everybody. A gay man told me that he gave a copy to his mother, had a way to talk about sexuality through the language of come as you are. He was a sex therapist. So like they had like an existing relationship where they could talk about that kind of thing. But it's like such a beautiful notion that people are sharing the book. Like it'll disappear off of parents' shelves into teenagers' rooms. I love it.
That's brilliant, isn't it? And it's so interesting because I discovered the book when Sarah Knight, the No Fucks Given writer, came on the podcast, and it was her book recommendation. And that was how I discovered it. Yeah, on the podcast.
Well, she's my editor, so of course she recommended it.
Oh, was she? Oh, yes. Sneaky. I shall take that up with her afterwards.
Yeah, she edited that book. Come As You Are is what it is, because she was such a like no nonsense. I mean, it was back in the day when we were mailing paper back to each other. So she would mail the entire manuscript back with pencil marks all over it, just like lines crossed through whole paragraphs and margin notes like, I wish I understood this because it seems like it might be important. And this is all gobbledygook to me.
Yeah. But as well as being a massive success, Come As You Are had, let's just say, a detrimental impact on your own sex life, didn't it?
Yes, it sure did. January of 2010 is when I taught that class where I went, I want to write a book. August of 2011 is when I met my husband. 2012 is when I started really seriously like writing a book. So I was a newlywed when I started writing the book. And you might think that you're reading about sex and writing about sex and thinking about sex and talking about sex all the time. You might think that that's like super sexy. It's not. It was real stressful. And I was so stressed from all this thinking and reading and talking about sex that I lost all interest in actually having any sex for months at a time. Again, newlyweds, months at a time, nothing. Finished the book, things got better. Went on book tour, things got much worse. Tried to follow my own advice. Chapter 7, the desire chapter, responsive desire. This is the advice I give everybody, and I tried to follow it. You put your body in the bed, you let your skin touch your partner's skin, and your body will probably go, oh, right, this is a good idea. I really like this. I really like this person. And I will put my body in the bed, let my skin touch my partner's skin, and I would cry and fall asleep. And I thought, I need more advice than I give in my own book. So I did what any good nerd does. I went to Google Scholar and I looked at the peer-reviewed research on how couples sustain a strong sexual connection over the long term. And what I found there blew my mind and ultimately is what I wrote in Come Together.
So how did it make you feel? Because you're a sex expert.
I'm supposed to be having frequent, wildly orgasmic sex, right?
Yeah, totally.
And like months of nothing. And yeah, I absolutely did the thing where you beat the crap out of yourself because you're supposed to be able to fix every problem. And look, I'm not saying there are not advantages and that I don't have a great sex life because I do this for a living. The sex I have is very enjoyable, not least because my partner and I communicate extremely well about sex. And both of us know that we don't have to follow anybody else's rules about who we're supposed to be or how we're supposed to have sex. When you're as exhausted, burnt out, frankly, as I was, there's no amount of being good at communicating that's going to get your body to feel well enough to be able to get to the sex part. So just because I'm a quote unquote sexpert doesn't mean that my body's not just as vulnerable to the stress and body image and trauma history and all the things that everybody deals with when it comes to things that interfere with their access to sexual pleasure.
Were you kind of in two minds about coming out, if you like, as having had those problems when you were writing and promoting Come Together?
Yeah, I was when I was putting together the proposal, it was a question that I asked my agent. I also have an extraordinary agent who got me together with Sarah Knight, and she's been my agent for all of my books. Her name is Lindsay Edgecombe. She's a delightful human being. And I was like, okay, so a book about sex and long-term relationships. Here's my story. I'm worried that if I put my story in the book, it will undermine my credibility. And she was like, no, it is such a relief to hear that even somebody who teaches this stuff for a living can still struggle with it. And over and over, that's the response I've gotten, especially from other professionals and especially from grad students who are growing into the profession, to know that like their experiences of being really exhausted and overwhelmed so much so that they can't actually have the sex they talk about all day, every day, is not aberrant. Like they are not alone.
I think it's like from outside, for me, I really felt like it's like you practice what you preach. You know, you're not just like laying down all these rules. And by the way, that was one of the things that I loved about Come As You Are, and I equally love about Come Together, is that it's not prescriptive like that. It's not like just piling. There's so many books in this area, just like, they're really heterosexual, which we'll talk about in a bit. Sorry, the cat's attacking my chair. Will you just get lost? It's not even food time yet, but he's just starting the attrition now. It's not piling on the pressure, and it's not, if anything, it's taking the pressure off. And that is so rare.
I'm glad you feel that way about it, because it not being prescriptive made it much harder to write. Because wouldn't it be so much easier if I was just like steps 1 through 5, there you go. And it doesn't help anybody, but it's easy to write and people feel like it should be helpful. Those are the kind of books where you get this like prescriptive, like go through the steps and it feels like it should be helpful, and then it's not helpful. And you get to say, well, it's not helpful because there's something wrong with me.
Yeah, you've just failed again. It's just setting you up to fail.
Which is why I don't write books that way, if I could possibly avoid it. There is one prescriptive piece of advice I give, which is that everybody should explore and find a lube that works for them. Lube is good. I have had people pay thousands of dollars to attend a weekend-long retreat. And while I talk about lube, they have paid. I only give one piece of advice. And it's lube. And they'll sit there going, I don't know. And I'm like, I only say one thing that you really need to do, and it's this one. You paid thousands of dollars to be here. Please try to find a lube you like. Because it's not prescriptive and it's not steps 1 through 5, I think the books can feel a little bit like, this is going to be really hard work. Like I actually have to like create change in my life in order to make space for sexual pleasure.
I think, do you find, I mean, people want an answer, don't they? I mean, do you find that people will come on one of your workshops? The cat has left the building. Do you find that people will come on one of your workshops and they'll be like, yes, but what is the key to great long-term sex?
Right. And I mean, in the introduction of the book, I'm like, couples who sustain a strong sexual connection over the long term have 3 characteristics. 1, they are friends who admire and trust each other. And some couples are already fucked on that one because it turns out they don't like the person they married. Because I actually didn't realize how controversial and difficult this would be until I started touring, talking to people about the book, because there persists apparently this idea that you can't be friends with someone you're sexually attracted to. So you marry a person you're sexually attracted to, which inherently means it's somebody you can't be friends with.
Is that a heterosexual thing or is that a cross?
I have to say it's been straight cisgender women are the ones who have bought into this idea that they can't be friends with the person they're sexually attracted to. And so when the sex goes south in their connection, there's nothing left in their relationship because they never were friends. So that's number 1. And if you can't like the person, it really doesn't seem like it would be controversial, right? It's really much better if you like the person that you're having sex with.
I get that it is though, because people do say, ooh, she says that he, they, she is her best friend. Well, yeah. You spend a lot of time with this person.
Oh, every day. I spend hours every day. I sleep next to this person. Yeah, they're my best friend. Yeah. You would sleep next to someone who's not like one of your very favorite people on earth. They like each other. They trust and admire each other. 2, they prioritize sex. They decide that sex matters in their relationship. It contributes something important to their connection. That doesn't mean that they always have time for sex or they're always in the mood. It means that on those inevitable occasions when life gets in the way, like you got a brand new human in your house, or your parents are sick, or you just want to spend time with other friends for a while, or you're house training a puppy, you're got a degree to finish, like life gets in the way. What it means is that when that happens, because they know that sex contributes something important to their relationship, they're motivated to find their way back to each other when life permits. And let me say that sex is not important in every relationship. There absolutely are relationships where sex is not a priority and sex doesn't contribute anything meaningful. But the couples who sustain a strong sexual connection are the ones who know why sex matters in their relationship. That's number 2. And number 3 is that couples who sustain a strong sexual connection decide they are not going to follow other people's rules about who they're supposed to be as sexual people and what their sexual relationship is supposed to look like. They're going to be precisely who they authentically are. They're going to receive their partner's sexuality precisely as it is, not filtered through the lens of a bunch of cultural lies they were taught about who their partner is supposed to be. And they're going to co-create a context in their relationship that makes it easier for their brains to access pleasure. They're going to collaborate on creating something that they both really enjoy.
This episode of The Shift is sponsored by Shopify. I can clearly remember starting The Shift. It's such a leap, isn't it? Going out there on your own, doing a new thing. I mean, what if it doesn't work? What if nobody listens? What if all the tech comes crashing down around me? Now, over 5 years and over 250 episodes later, I know different, of course. Starting The Shift was the best thing I ever did. And it helps to have a partner like Shopify on your side to help. For a start, they'll help you get the word out, like you have a whole marketing team behind you, with easy-to-run email and social media campaigns. Shopify's your commerce expert, with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to shipping, returns, everything. And if you get stuck, their award-winning 24/7 customer support is always around to advise. It's time to turn those what-ifs into... With Shopify today. Sign up for your £1 a month trial today at shopify.co.uk/shift. Go to shopify.co.uk/shift. That's shopify.co.uk/shift. It's so interesting, isn't it? Because like the friendship and the enjoyment and cuddling and pleasure, they're all so much the opposite of, like we were saying right at the beginning, the way that sex is viewed. You know, it's all keeping the spark alive and sex drive and desire and how often you do it, you know?
You are literally naming like my biggest bugbears. Like like if I could erase some phrases off the face of the earth, it would be keeping the spark alive, sex drive, wondering about how often you do it. People ask a lot, how often should I be having sex? And like the answer exists in the science. Researchers have asked that question, and we know kind of the typical frequency with which people have sex. We have known that for more than 100 years because it's an easy question to ask and it's an easy question to get an answer to. And so researchers have been doing it for a long time. It is impossible to hear, like, I'm not going to say it because it's impossible to hear that number and not judge yourself as being okay or not okay based on whether or not your sex life matches the average. And here's the thing. What do those people's sex lives have to do with you? And 2, what if people are having sex at a frequency that feels like a pretty high frequency to you, but at least one of them does not enjoy any of it? But say there's another couple that's having sex at a frequency that seems pretty darn low to you, like that's pretty infrequent sex, but they both just love it.
It's really interesting because I speak to so many women for the podcast and interviewed so many women for my book that started the podcast, The Shift. And I hear so much the same, which is that very many of them, almost but not exclusively heterosexual, are at the very least lonely in their marriage, might go so far as to say they hate their husband, but are certainly over it. And sex is, it's not that they don't necessarily, some of them wouldn't mind sex, but not with their husband. And others are just like over it. They just wouldn't care if they didn't have it again. It's like what's going on there? I suppose there are two things I'm wondering. Firstly, what is going on there?
The answer is the patriarchy. Continue.
The patriarchy. Yeah. But also it's like, what is it, do you think, about this time of life, 40s, 50s, that makes maybe a certain sort of women, certainly women in heterosexual relationships, kind of go, maybe not.
Let me say it's not a universal experience, right? There are plenty of women, like for example, I'm 47. And while I have struggled because I've been so stressed, overwhelmed, exhausted, I really like the sex that we have. I'm in like a monogamous, heterosexual looking marriage, and like we're doing really good. And I look forward to my ideal retirement is like basically all we do is grocery shop and fuck. That's how I want to retire. So I made the book as inclusive as I possibly could, but the research has been very clear for the last couple of decades that couples in heterosexual type relationships, though they may have sex more frequently than other kinds of couples, they have less variety of their sex. They have fewer orgasms. They're less likely to say, I love you. There's less kissing. There's overall less pleasure. So they have more frequent sex that they like less. I am worried about the straights. My editor's boss read the book and was reminded of like her local Facebook moms group. Like a community will have like a moms group for people who live in a geographical area. And she's a single mom, but like this Facebook group was just filled with moms who were going on rants about how much they use the word hate their husbands. And like, what was the first characteristic of couples who sustain a strong sexual connection? They like each other. And sometimes it might be the case that like one or both people in the marriage is like actually a bad person. I think it's more often the case that each of them is just following the prescriptive handbook that they were given on the day they were born based on the shape of their genitals, trying to be a good woman or a good man. And those two scripts are inherently in conflict with each other. Like if you are trying to be a good woman and you are married to someone who's trying to be a good man, you're going to be unhappy forever. It is in the nature of those two scripts, because if you're a giver, it's a girl, you're a giver. Your job is to be pretty, happy, calm, and attentive to the needs of others. If you are an it's a boy type person, you are raised to be a human winner, to be competitive and acquisitive and entitled and interested and able to have sex at any moment, at any time, with anybody. And your value on earth as a human can be measured in part by your ability to get someone else to let you put your penis inside them, right? And so if you're married to a woman, and oh, by the way, if you're taught that you're a human winner and your job is to be competitive and put your penis inside people, then you're taught that girls and women are inferior to you. And if you're a person who puts your penis inside women, then women are now gatekeeping whether or not you are worthy of the air you breathe. So if she says no to sex, it could be that she's just saying, I am touched out from the child rearing. I'm exhausted from having to like go to class and then go to work, and I'm just too tired. But it feels to him like she's saying, no, you're not quite worthy of the air you breathe. You're not quite a fully deserving human on earth. Like there is no way to win. There's no way to be happy in a sexual relationship where both people are trying to follow the rules of heterosexuality. But it's not hopeless. There's absolutely a solution, which is that you both have to decide that like those handbooks that you were given, these scripts, these rules you were told to follow are lies and bullshit. And you're going to make up your own rules. You're going to decide for yourselves who you truly are as sexual people. You're going to stop measuring your worth based on somebody else's opinion of who you're supposed to be.
It's so interesting, isn't it? What do you think the impact of perimenopause is? Have you been through perimenopause?
Oh, heck yeah. I had my first hot flash in an airport in February of 2020.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
I was standing in the security line and I was suddenly like, why is it so hot in this airport? I'm usually cold in airports. Why is it so hot? Yeah, I have since discovered the glory of linen sheets.
Oh, good tip.
Because otherwise, when you sleep in cotton sheets, they just absorb the sweat and you wake up in a swamp. It's terrible.
Yes.
So, yeah, my gynecologist this year spontaneously said, wow, your vaginal rugae are really flattened. It is sort of like ripply, like it has a bunch of, there's a lot of texture, hills and valleys. And as your estrogen levels, estradiol goes down, it sort of like smooths out. And that's part of why you get, the tissue becomes more fragile and you're more prone to tearing and pain with intercourse. And I was experiencing pain with intercourse. And here she was literally like looking at my vagina and saying, here's why.
Because you've got all that stuff going on, haven't you? You might, even if you didn't have loss of libido, even if you might have vaginal dryness, your body might have changed in a way that you don't like. Insomnia, hot flashes, then add in loss of libido.
So the question is, why does sexual interest change? There is, and like researchers have been looking, and they have not been able to find a hormonal explanation for perimenopause is for some people associated with a decreased interest in sex or decreased sexual motivation. So it seems to be like a psychosocial thing, like your body has changed in a way you don't like. Okay, well, suppose you get naked in front of someone and now your brain is filled with all the thoughts you have about the way your body used to be and how it's different now and all the critical thoughts you have about that. And those critical thoughts, are they going to make it easier to want and like the sex that you're having, or are they going to like hit the brakes and totally interfere? If you're experiencing pain, here's a wild, crazy idea. It is not dysfunctional not to want sex you do not enjoy.
Whoa.
Painful sex is sex you do not enjoy. And it makes sense that if sex hurts, you're going to have hesitation. When your partner tries to initiate, you're going to be like, oh, do I really want to have to go through that? I'm not sure. So there are a lot of good reasons why. Part of it is you're fed up having sex for somebody else out of a sense of obligation because you believe that as a partner, you're supposed to have sex because if you don't, then something bad is going to happen. The little clock so many women have in their heads of how long it's been and like, we should have sex so that like he doesn't feel deprived. Not so much there is a hormonal factor in particular with the sleep stuff and with the actual like genitourinary vaginal health situation. And the rest of it seems to be about our perception of ourselves as sexual people and our satisfaction in our relationships. But if we think about what we would want for the next generation of women, for our daughters, would we want them when they get to perimenopause to be like, I guess sex is just terrible and I can be glad that it's over? I talk about like an example couple that goes to sex therapy and one partner says, so I used to be into the sex, but these days, I'd be perfectly fine if we never had it again. I'm sorry if that hurts my partner's feelings. And there's a sex therapist in Canada named Peggy Klein-Plotz who leads the Optimal Sexual Experiences research team. And she will say to this person who would be fine never having sex again, so tell me about this sex you don't want. And do you think they're describing like playful, connected, highly orgasmic, pleasurable, joyful sex? Or is it, as Peggy puts it, dismal and disappointing? And Peggy will say, well, I rather like sex, but if that's the sex I were having, I wouldn't want it either. So tell me, Peggy will say, what kind of sex is worth wanting? This is a really important question. What kind of sex is worth wanting? I break it down into 4 questions, actually. What is it that you want when you want sex? And people's flippant off the top of their head answer is orgasm. 95% of people can have an orgasm on their own. So that's, if orgasm is not something that's been accessible to you, there's whole workshops and books just on that. And there's whole sex toys just for that. And we can talk about orgasm if you want to. Glad to talk about orgasm. I could talk about orgasm forever. When people actually, like, what is it that I want when I want sex with this partner? They want connection. They want shared pleasure. They want to feel wanted. And they want to be able to close the door on all their other responsibilities and identities and obligations and just like vanish into the pleasure that's happening in the moment. What do you want when you want sex? What don't you want when you don't want sex? Feeling obligated is the number one answer there. Hint. So when people have like what they call maintenance sex, where they decide that they should just have sex however often they think they're supposed to have sex, but at least one of them doesn't like it, you destroy a relationship that way. Oh, I want to live in a world where we only ever have sex we like. Here's the wacky part. And we don't even feel bad for not having the sex we don't like. I know. I want to change the world. And what do you like when you like sex? And what do you not like when you don't like sex? Those 4 questions will get you a long way from, you know what, I feel like the sex part of my life might be over and good riddance, to like maybe sex exists for me in a pleasurable, positive way. And I have just been trapped in somebody else's idea of who I'm supposed to be as a sexual person and what sex is supposed to look like.
There's something you wrote in this week's newsletter while you've been kind of talking to people about the book on tour. You've been really shocked by the number of people, cis straight women, who seem to really believe that connection with their long-term partner, it should just be there, should just be spontaneous. And I wonder, it feels like almost ageist or certainly short-term relationshipist that the new, the young, whatever is exciting and anything long is boring. If it doesn't just automatically come, then forget it.
Yeah, I have a hypothesis that it truly is tied to capitalism, that we've all been trained that what's new and exciting is what's good, that it should feel easy and fun. And if it's not easy and fun, then there's something wrong. As if the deliberate cultivation of a connection is not a healthy, normal way for people to relate to each other. It should just be there all the time without you having to do anything about it. And if it's not there, then you throw that one out and you get a new one, which is why I think it's linked to the way our brains have been trained by capitalism. I have a friend who's writing a memoir in part about her own mother's experimentation in the 60s with group marriage. A lot of her mother's point of view is that new and exciting, that new relationship energy, like the good, right way to be in a relationship with someone. If you haven't got that, then you haven't got very much worth having. It has been a surprise to me. Like, I knew ahead of time that like something builds in a long-term relationship, but my husband and I have been together for 13 years now. What we have now is qualitatively different from new relationship energy. It's so much bigger and deeper, and built it together day by day by making choices about how we want to relate to each other through whatever vicissitudes come our way and through whatever joyful, positive things come our way. How are we going to relate to each other through the changes that come to us? Part of how I feel about this, honestly, is influenced by 2 weeks before the book was due. So this is the first time I missed a book deadline, but for a good reason. 2 weeks before my book was due, a friend of mine died of cancer, and she was right around my age, mid-40s. She married her wife just a couple of months after I married my husband, and they had already faced their till death do us part. And I changed the whole second half of the book because it's not like I didn't know. We don't get to choose how long we spend with our partners, but it was this deep, painful, visceral reminder that we are not promised abundant time with the people we love. We are only promised change. And it is how we manage that change together that characterizes the overall quality of our relationship. So even though if you're wondering, did writing Come Together do to your sex life the same thing that Come As You Are did? 100% months of nothing. I didn't regret the months of nothing. So this is not a like have sex every day or you'll regret it. This is how are my partner and I negotiating the change that has happened in our lives as a result of me writing this book. Can we be kind and playful and generous, compassionate with each other, even as both of us are distressed about this change? And can we find our way back to each other in a way that doesn't judge or shame or blame any of the specific incidents that happened? Can we be forgiving and loving regardless of what comes our way? Anna used to say, queer joy matters specifically. As a lesbian, she would say, stay safe and practice hope. So losing her has created like a daily motivation for me to practice hope and to practice pleasure, even when sex is not available to my brain because I'm just too overwhelmed and exhausted. I'm too sick. I don't have the spoons for it because I used up all my spoons doing other stuff that just had to get done. I can still notice the pleasure of like a new leaf that burst on my monstera or on it's May. So the tree is like busting out with leaves. I can notice that pleasure. I can watch my husband singing to the dogs while he feeds them. I can notice that pleasure and enjoy it, and I can share it with him. And that is us managing the changes that happen in our lives in a way that day after day results in a life that I feel glad to be living.
It boils down to so much of what you say, doesn't it? To pleasure, desire, not sex drive, not all of those things, but pleasure, and that being the goal and living in that moment.
John Green, a YA author he has OCD and depression, and he wrote a YA book called Turtles All the Way Down about a teenager with OCD, and it's being turned into a movie. And so he's doing a lot of press for that movie. And he just made a video about being interviewed about his marriage. And the title is like, here's the secret to their happy marriage. And he's like, the secret is mutual respect. Like, it kind of does just come down to this basic, like, you have to be glad to be with this person.
Yeah. And it comes back, doesn't it, to your point one, you kind of got to like each other.
So there's a sex therapist named Christine Hyde in New Jersey who taught me this analogy. She'll say to her clients, imagine your best friend invites you to a party. You say yes, because it's your best friend and it's a party. But, as the date gets closer, you start thinking there's going to be really heavy traffic. Got to find childcare. Am I going to want to put on my party clothes at the end of a long week? But you said you would go, so you get the childcare and you trim your nose hair and you put on your body glitter and you go to the party. And what happens? A lot of the time, you have a good time at the party. If you are having fun at the party, you're doing it right.
That's a great point for me to ask you the questions that I always ask at the end, because if you let me, we would be here for another 3 hours. And
I need to be more disciplined.
You haven't got those spoons.
Right.
What's your emotional age?
I would say approximately 42.
Why 42?
That is how old I was when the pandemic hit. And I have both grown emotionally and shrunk in my physical well-being equally. So I'm sort of like stuck at 42. Also, Douglas Adams.
Give us a book recommendation that isn't by Sarah Knight.
Dang. I just read the memoir of death doula Elua Arthur called Briefly Perfectly Human. And it's great.
What advice would you give younger women?
Try not using any social media for a month and see what happens to your brain.
Have you done that?
Oh, yes. It's wonderful. But I am in a privileged position. I can get other people to manage my social media for me.
Name an old bird role model.
I'm going to go the sappy route and say my mom.
You wouldn't be the first person to do that.
So my mother started having babies before she went to college. So she didn't go to college until my sister and I were in high school. And then she continued and got a master's degree. And then she continued and got a doctoral degree. Then, in the process of doing her doctoral degree, she divorced my shitty dad and moved to the beach. And now she's working as, I think, an accompanist at a Unitarian church. And that's like hashtag the life. She got a boyfriend who owns a boat.
She's got there. She's
right?
done it.
Yeah. And because she's a redhead, she didn't go gray at all. She just went blonde.
Yeah. She deserves to be an old bird role model.
100%.
What's your superpower?
It's not that exciting. My verbal memory is, I had to go through neuropsychological evaluation for some things. And so I know diagnostically, my verbal memory is off the charts good. I don't know what good it does to have a great verbal memory, but I have it.
Yeah, you never know when it might come in handy. Last one, how many fucks do you give?
I have fewer fucks than I used to. But just like spoons, I am careful to allocate them in deliberate ways. And I am learning every day to get better at distributing them in a way that makes my life better instead of always trying to make other people's lives better.
Yeah, that's the big ask, isn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Emily. And I never do this, but I am going to do it now. Come As You Are and Come Together are truly brilliant books, and they truly will change your sex life. So you need to go and buy them both, and I will put a link in the show notes.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoy The Shift and would like to show your appreciation, why not buy me a coffee? Go to www.buymeacoffee.com/The Shift with Sam Baker. You can hear a new episode of The Shift every Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you like what you hear, please do rate, review, follow, tell your friends, because it really does help other people find us. And if you'd like to know more about my own experience of shifting, my book, The Shift, How I Lost and Found Myself After 40, and you can too, is out now in paperback.